I'm Hazel and welcome to my TSM4 selling guide. This video is going to walk you through how to post large amounts of anything on the auction house with Trade Skill Master 4. If you're super brand new to TSM, I'd recommend starting with my intro to TSM4 for beginners video, which I have linked in the description. Without having seen that, some of this won't make much sense. Today we're going to cover groups, setting up a posting operation, customizing it with different price sources, and cancel scans. At the end of this video, you should be able to spam a button to post a whole bag's worth of different goods for prices that you're happy with without having to look them up one by one. It's awesome. Most of today's concepts are important for everything in TSM. The first thing to understand is groups. A group is a set of items that you want to treat by the same rules. In TSM, those rule sets are called operations. You start out with the base group, which includes everything in the game, but TSM gets a lot more powerful as you start setting up and nesting groups. Maybe I want to stop by the auction house and post all of my cloth and herbs for market price, post my calcified bones for whatever as long as it's over vendor price, but hang on to my enchanting mats. Groups lets me do all of that with one button. They're the foundation that we'll need for posting auctions, but also mailing, shopping, and deciding what to craft later in the series. You can add subgroups to groups to let them share an operation from above them. You've also got an override parent operation option to let you choose a new operation at any point in that tree. The kid groups are going to do what the parent groups do unless you tell them otherwise with that override. The override then applies to every subgroup further down in the tree until it hits another override or the bottom of the tree. Something important to remember in TSM4 is that the base group is a mega parent that applies to everything. So apart from the base group, you don't start out with any groups, but there are a few ways to get them. Way one is manually. Type /TSM for options, go to groups, click this plus to make a new group, and now you can add items from your bags. This is how I've done my BOE greens group, which is kind of for greens that aren't super valuable, but I'd like to sell them for whatever everyone else is posting them for. Ugly transmog. Every time I find a new piece, I just chuck it in that group. Way 2 of getting groups is to import. Friendly gold makers have posted strings for their groups on different websites, including r/WoWeconomy on Reddit. I'll link some of the popular ones down below. If you trust those strings, you can copy them and import them in the Import-Export tab. Imported groups from these sites tend to be heavily nested, and they're a great way to save about a bajillion hours of setting up trees yourself. A nice thing about these group trees is that you can drag and drop subgroups to anywhere in the structure you like. Super granular groups like this can be overwhelming to look at, but because you can just start with one operation at the top for the whole tree, there's no big downside. There is also an official Trade Skill Master group maker tool that you can use to generate an import string from a bunch of Wowhead links. That's good if you want to create a group with things that aren't in your bags. I can't say that I've ever used it, but it's nice that it's there. I promise you this is all easier than it looks. For today, we're going to start with something simple, and you can get into the fancier stuff as you need it. Let's make a group called BFA Herbs. So groups, hit the plus icon, name it, and add items. I happen to have some herbs in my bag, so I'll add those to our new group. Now it's time for a posting operation. If you followed through the beginner guide, you actually already have one, the spruced up default operation. Taking a look at that again, let's pay some attention to the price field. We're going to make an operation that's easier to understand, while also giving you the info to decode this price string so that you understand what it's doing. So we want a new operation. Let's go to Operations, Auctioning, and Add. Let's call this Sell BFA Herbs. On the Details tab, go to Group Management and apply that to your herbs group. In posting, I'm rolling with 48 hours, a 200 post cap, and a 1000 posted stack size. Herbs sell quickly, so I'm not worried about posting too many of them, and I don't mind posting big stacks. Definitely check Allow Partial Stack. I'm not going to keep any, and I'll leave the Don't Post at 0 too. Feel free to follow your heart and experiment with these options, this is just an example. These two price settings look fine, so it's time to set up our minimum, maximum, and normal price. First, let's go over what these are for. When you go to post something on the auction house, TSM will first try to undercut the lowest price that's currently up. Obviously, if someone's posting these herbs for a copper, we don't want to undercut that, so we need a floor. The minimum price is the cutoff that TSM will absolutely not post your item below. Your maximum price is basically the ceiling, and normal is what you want to post it at if none are up already. In these options, you can choose what you want TSM to do if the price is below your minimum or above your maximum. What we use in that box for our minimum, normal, and maximum price is called a custom price. TSM has a great article on custom prices if you want to refer back to something written, and I'll link that in the description. Here's the breakdown. You could just put an actual gold value here and say I don't want to sell herbs for less than 10 gold each. That will work, but it's not very flexible, especially as the market changes over time. My favorite thing to use here are percentages of a price source. I like market price, so I use a percentage of DB market. Let's say that the lowest I want to undercut to is 70% of market price, so I'll put that in exactly like this. For a normal price, I'll say 110% DB market, and for max, let's do 200%. Now, DB Market is only one of many price sources you can use, and it's got its pros and cons. Depending on what you're selling, you may want to use something else. For a list of all of the different price sources you can use, type /TSM sources in your chat window. For example, you can use an item's vendor price. On my Ugly Transmog group, I have my minimum price set to 120% vendor sell. So if the going rate is lower than 20% over the vendor price, it just doesn't post the item and I go vendor it instead. It happens, there's some really ugly mog. Now you can get way fancier with your price sources than that, and I recommend reading the linked article for more info on how. You can have it use the lower of two price sources, you can add price sources together, and you can mix in some arithmetic operators as well. So what I think the default price is actually doing here for a minimum price is averaging out the crafting value, market price, and region market average, then takes a quarter of that number and compares it against 1.5 times the vendor price, and then takes the higher of those two numbers. Like I said, you can get very fancy, or you can be me and do percentages of market price. Beware that market price can fluctuate, so it's a good idea to put more thought into price rules for operations designed for big ticket items. Congratulations on getting this far, I promise that all of this thinking will pay off. So now that we've got our items in a group with an auctioning operation in place, there's two ways to sell. The first is quick post, which we looked at in the intro guide. Open the window, select your item here, and click post. Because we've set up an operation, you can see that it's using those new rules instead of the default ones. A more bulk-friendly way is with an auctioning scan. Select the groups that you want to post on the left here. We've got select all and deselect all options hidden behind this triple dot menu, which may be my least favorite change of TSM4. I miss when those were just out. Anyways, we select the groups that we want to sell, click run post scan, make sure the prices look okay, and spam click post to post all of the items from those groups that you had in your bags. Easy. You put in some setup time up front and save massive amounts of time from now on. It's a good deal. You can have as many posting operations as you want, so feel free to set up different operations and use those for your various groups. Maybe some things you want to post in 20 stacks, whereas some things can go in 200s. I have an aggressive sell operation with a low minimum that I use for things that aren't worth a ton, and a careful sell operation for things that I can get more gold out of. The sky's the limit. So you're out living your happy life, killing boars and other current WoW activities when suddenly a horrible thought strikes you. What if someone undercut you? You drop everything and rush back to the auction house ready to undercut right back. Or at least you should if you like selling things faster. Welcome to the cancel scan. So back in our auctioning operation, there's a third tab called canceling. If it's the type of thing where you're getting undercut, which is most things, make sure that you check cancel undercut options. I don't typically worry about cancel to repost higher, although you certainly can. At the auction house, go to your auctioning tab, select the groups that you want to check for undercutters for, and click this cancel scan button. It'll show you all of your auctions that have been undercut and give you a spammable cancel button to cancel those auctions. After that, it's a matter of picking your goods back up from the mailbox and running a fresh post scan to undercut them right back. Something to keep in mind is that some things are more worth cancel scanning than others. Something with a crazy high sale rate like herbs is probably fine left alone. Even if you get undercut, enough get bought that you'll probably sell them soon enough anyways. With low sale rate items like battle pets or BOE epics though, canceling becomes a very good idea. If your cancel scans are taking too long, remember to only scan groups that are important to cancel. Also, don't forget that when you cancel an auction, you do lose your deposit. Your deposit is bigger on 48-hour auctions than 24, and 24 is bigger than 12, so if you find yourself canceling a certain group every 3 hours, you can turn down the default auction duration so that you're not losing so much gold in the deposit. So that's selling items. It's easier than it looks. I recommend getting started with a few groups first, and then experimenting with pricing rules to find some operations that you like. Most of the time, it's just undercutting what's already up anyways, so the most important decision to make is your minimum price, or how low you're willing to go. With a little setup, you should be able to spam click post to put up massive amounts of auctions and undercut your life away until people don't like you anymore. Thanks for watching! Check back to my channel for more guides in this TSM4 series covering shopping and flipping, mailing, sniping, and potentially more. Let me know what you think and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye!